The vast expanse of space held many wonders, but for humanity, it had become a realm of constant struggle. Humans, once confined to their blue planet, had spread across the stars, establishing colonies on distant worlds. Yet, they were far from the dominant species in the galaxy. Many alien races viewed humans as weak, cowardly, and barely worth noticing. On the bustling space station Nexus 7, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a massive holographic display. Her weathered face reflected the soft blue glow of countless stars and planets. She sighed, running a hand through her graying hair. The latest reports weren't good. Another human outpost attacked, she muttered, zooming in on a distant sector. Red warning symbols flashed across the display, indicating distress signals and confirmed casualties. Lieutenant Rodriguez, a young officer with eager eyes, approached the admiral. "Ma'am, we've received word from the Galactic Council. They're not sending help." Chen's jaw clenched. It wasn't surprising, but it still stung. "Of course they're not," she said bitterly. "Why would the mighty aliens risk their necks for us cowardly humans?" Just then, alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed the command center in an eerie red glow. Chen's eyes widened as she saw a massive shape materialize on the long-range scanners. "What in the name of Earth is that?" Rodriguez gasped, his face pale. The object was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was a colossal ship, if it could even be called that. Its surface writhed and shifted, as if alive. Dark tentacles of energy lashed out from its core, destroying everything in its path. "Send out a galaxy-wide alert," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. "We're dealing with something new here." As the message went out, responses from other races began flooding in. The proud Zarkonian Empire, known for their advanced weaponry, declared a state of emergency and sealed their borders. The mystical Illyrians, masters of energy manipulation, retreated to their hidden sanctuary worlds. Even the warlike Krolvac, who boasted of their fearlessness, were suspiciously quiet. Days passed, and the mysterious entity continued its relentless advance. It consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but cosmic dust in its wake. The Galactic Council, once so dismissive of humanity, now found themselves paralyzed with indecision and fear. On Earth, the United Nations of Humanity convened an emergency session. Representatives from every human world gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall, their faces grim as they watched footage of the approaching threat. President Amelia Okonkwo, a tall woman with dark skin and fierce eyes, addressed the assembly. "My fellow humans, we face a danger unlike any we have encountered before. The other races of the galaxy cower in fear, but we cannot afford such luxury. We must act, or all will be lost." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some voices called for retreat, for abandoning their outer colonies and fortifying Earth. Others demanded immediate military action, despite the seemingly hopeless odds. As debates raged, a message arrived from an unexpected source. The Orcs, an ancient race known for their vast knowledge and isolation, broke their centuries-long silence. Their transmission was brief. "The Devourer has awakened. Only the tenacity of the young ones can stop it." Confusion spread through the assembly. Young ones. Did they mean humanity, the newcomers to the galactic stage? In the midst of the chaos, Admiral Chen's voice cut through the noise. She had been patched in from Nexus 7, her holographic form standing tall before the world leaders. "We've all heard the whispers," she said, her voice firm. "The jokes and insults. Humans are too emotional, too unpredictable. We're called cowards for fleeing battles we can't win, fools for charging into ones we might. But now, when the bravest warriors in the galaxy tremble, it falls to us to act." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We may not have the most advanced technology. We may not be the strongest or the wisest. But there's one thing humans have always excelled at: surviving against impossible odds." President Okonkwo nodded, a fierce determination in her eyes. "Admiral Chen is right. We've faced extinction before, on our own world, and among the stars. Each time, we've adapted, we've fought back, and we've emerged stronger. The assembly erupted in cheers and applause. As humanity steeled itself for the greatest challenge in its history, a peculiar thing happened. Across the galaxy, in hidden bunkers and fortified palaces, alien leaders watched in astonishment. The very qualities they had mocked in humans, their emotional nature, their stubborn refusal to give up, now shone like a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. The cowardly humans were stepping up, and the fate of the galaxy now rested in their hands. In the days following humanity's decision to face the cosmic threat, a fire seemed to ignite across human-controlled space. The fear that had gripped so many hearts didn't disappear, but it transformed into a driving force, pushing people to action rather than paralysis. On Earth, in the sprawling shipyards of New Singapore, workers toiled around the clock. Massive space vessels took shape under the glow of plasma welders and the hum of gravity manipulators. Engineer Raj Patel wiped sweat from his brow as he oversaw the final touches on the flagship of humanity's new fleet. "She's a beauty, isn't she?" Raj said to his assistant, patting the hull of the enormous ship, the HSS Defiant. "Not the biggest ship in the galaxy, but she's got heart." The assistant, a young woman named Lynn, nodded in agreement. "Just like us humans, sir. Not the biggest or strongest, but we've got heart." Across the solar system, on the red plains of Mars, General Maria Vasquez watched as recruits ran through combat drills. The Martian gravity, lower than Earth's, allowed for unique training scenarios. Soldiers leaped impossible distances, practiced zero combat, and learned to handle weapons that could pierce alien armor. Again, Vasquez barked as a squad fumbled a maneuver. "The fate of our species rests on your shoulders. We must be perfect." As she watched the recruits try again, determination etched on their faces, Vasquez felt a swell of pride. These weren't hardened veterans or lifelong soldiers. They were farmers, teachers, engineers, ordinary people who had volunteered to defend their homes and families. In orbit around Jupiter, the massive space station Ganymede Hub had been transformed into a war room. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display, surrounded by the brightest military minds humanity had to offer. "The entity, which we're now calling the Devourer, has consumed 3 more star systems," a young analyst reported, his voice grim. "At its current pace, it will reach our outer colonies in 2 months." Chen nodded, her face a mask of concentration. "What about the alien races? Any change in their stance?" An older woman with streaks of gray in her dark hair spoke up. "The Zarkonians are still refusing to share their weapons technology. The Illyrians sent a message wishing us spiritual harmony in the face of oblivion. Real helpful." Frustrated murmurs rippled through the room, but Chen raised a hand for silence. "We knew we'd be facing this alone. It's nothing new for humanity. Now let's focus on what we can control." "Dr. Okoro, what's the status on Project Phoenix?" A tall man with deep ebony skin stepped forward, excitement gleaming in his eyes despite the dire circumstances. "We've had a breakthrough, Admiral. By combining human intuition with alien tech we've acquired over the years, we've developed a weapon that might just give us a fighting chance." As Dr. Okoro explained the details of the new weapon, hope began to spread through the room. It wasn't a guaranteed victory, far from it, but it was a start. Meanwhile, on the far edges of human space, the colony world of New Horizon was bustling with activity. This small agricultural planet, once considered an unimportant backwater, had become the front line of humanity's defense. Governor Yuki Tanaka stood on a makeshift platform, addressing a crowd of colonists. "I won't lie to you," she said, her voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "The threat we face is like nothing we've ever seen. But look around you. See the fields we've planted, the homes we've built. This world, like every human world, was carved out of the wilderness by the sweat and blood of our people. We didn't come this far to give up now." The crowd cheered, their voices rising in defiance against the cosmic threat looming on the horizon. As preparations continued across human space, word of humanity's stand began to spread. Alien news networks, which had long ignored human affairs, now turned their attention to the species they had dismissed as cowards. On the Galactic Council space station, Ambassador Jorax of the Vex Collective watched the human broadcasts with growing interest. His species, known for their logical and dispassionate nature, had always found humans puzzling. Now, as he saw their determination in the face of near-certain doom, he felt something he had never experienced before. Admiration. Fascinating, he murmured, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. Perhaps we have underestimated these humans. As the day of confrontation drew near, a strange mood settled over human-controlled space. There was fear, yes, but also a grim determination, a unity of purpose that had never been seen before in the species' long and fractious history. In homes and schools, factories and farms, humans prepared for the fight of their lives. They knew the odds were stacked against them. They knew that failure meant not just their own extinction, but possibly the end of all life in the galaxy. Yet they stood firm, these creatures that other races had labeled as cowards. In the face of cosmic horror, humanity had found its courage. The galaxy watched and waited, wondering if these upstart beings from a backwater planet could achieve the impossible. The stage was set. Humanity was ready. The greatest battle in the history of the cosmos was about to begin. The day humanity had been preparing for finally arrived. The Devourer, a cosmic entity of unimaginable power, entered the outer reaches of human-controlled space. The colony world of New Horizon, once a peaceful agricultural planet, now stood as humanity's first line of defense. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiant, her eyes fixed on the main view screen. The sight before her sent chills down her spine. The Devourer was even more terrifying in person than in the long-range scans. It was a writhing mass of dark energy, punctuated by flashes of sickly purple light. Tendrils of void stuff reached out, seeming to tear at the very fabric of space-time. "All ships, report in," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her gut. One by one, the captains of Earth's hastily assembled fleet checked in. There were only 50 ships in total, a pitifully small force compared to the armadas of other galactic powers. But these ships represented the best of human engineering and the unbreakable spirit of their crews. "Remember your training," Chen broadcast to the fleet. "We're not here to win. Not yet. Our job is to slow it down, to buy time for the colonies to evacuate and for Earth to prepare its defenses." As she finished speaking, the Devourer seemed to notice the human fleet. A massive tendril of dark energy lashed out, moving faster than should have been possible for something so large. "Evasive maneuvers," Chen shouted. The human ships scattered, their engines flaring bright against the backdrop of space. Most managed to dodge the attack, but two smaller vessels weren't quick enough. The tendril passed through them, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, in a silent flash, both ships simply ceased to exist. Horror rippled through the fleet, but there was no time for grief. The battle had begun. Human ships darted and weaved around the massive entity, firing their weapons whenever they got a clear shot. Beams of concentrated energy and salvos of missiles impacted the Devourer, but seemed to do little damage. Aboard the HS Defiant, Dr. Okoro worked frantically at his console. "The conventional weapons aren't having much effect," he reported. "We need to get closer to deploy Project Phoenix." Admiral Chen gritted her teeth. Getting closer meant almost certain death for whoever attempted it. But they had no choice. "Attention all ships," she broadcast. "We need a volunteer for a close-range attack run." For a moment, there was silence. Then, a familiar voice crackled over the comm. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the HSS Courage. We're closest to the target. We'll make the run." Chen's heart sank. Rodriguez was young, barely out of the academy, but she could hear the determination in his voice. "Understood, Courage," she replied. "May your aim be true." The HSS Courage broke formation, its engines burning bright as it charged towards the Devourer. Tendrils of dark energy lashed out, but the human ship dodged with incredible precision. It was like watching a dance, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. As the Courage approached its target, the rest of the fleet provided covering fire, drawing the Devourer's attention. The massive entity seemed to roar in silent fury, its attacks becoming more frenzied. "We're in position." Rodriguez's voice came over the comm, strained but unbroken. "Deploying Project Phoenix now." A brilliant beam of golden light shot out from the Courage, striking the Devourer dead center. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a shockwave of energy rippled out from the point of impact. The dark tendrils recoiled, as if in pain. Cheers erupted across the human fleet. For the first time, they had hurt the monster. But their celebration was short-lived. The Devourer, wounded but far from defeated, lashed out with all its might. The HSS Courage, still too close to escape, was engulfed in a mass of writhing darkness. "Rodriguez!" Chen shouted, but there was no response. The Courage was gone. Grief and anger surged through the fleet, but instead of breaking their spirit, it only seemed to strengthen their resolve. Human ships pressed the attack with renewed vigor, darting into fire at the wound left by Project Phoenix. The battle raged on for hours. Human ships fell one by one, each loss a devastating blow to the small fleet, but they gave as good as they got, slowly but surely wearing down the cosmic horror before them. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the Devourer began to retreat. It moved slowly at first, then faster, until it vanished into the depths of space. Silence fell over the battlefield. Of the 50 ships that had begun the fight, only 22 remained. The survivors were battered, their hulls scarred by battles beyond human imagination. But they had done it. They had faced the unsurvivable and emerged victorious, if bloodied. As damage reports flooded in and the grim task of counting the dead began, news of the battle spread across human space and beyond. Humanity, the race so many had dismissed as cowards, had stood against a cosmic horror and driven it back. The first battle was over, but the war had only just begun. The news of humanity's stand against the Devourer spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On countless worlds, aliens gathered around view screens, watching in awe as footage of the battle played on repeat. The sight of tiny human ships darting around the cosmic horror, landing blow after blow, was unlike anything they had ever seen. On Earth, the mood was a mixture of grief and determination. Memorial services were held for the fallen heroes, their names etched into monuments that sprang up overnight. But even as they mourned, humans everywhere redoubled their efforts to prepare for the next encounter. In the lunar shipyards, engineer Raj Patel wiped sweat from his brow as he surveyed the controlled chaos around him. Workers swarmed over half-built ships, incorporating new designs based on data from the battle. "We've improved the shields," Raj explained to a group of reporters. "They should hold up better against the Devourer's energy attacks. And the new weapon systems." He paused, a glint in his eye. "Let's just say we've got a few surprises in store." Meanwhile, on Mars, General Maria Vasquez stood before a holographic display, studying the battle footage with intense concentration. Around her, a team of strategists argued over tactics and maneuvers. "Here," Vasquez said, freezing the image on a particular moment. "See how the Devourer recoils after the Phoenix weapon hits. There's our weak point. We need to hit it harder next time, and keep hitting it." As humanity prepared, the alien races of the galaxy watched with growing interest and, in some cases, shame. The Zarkonians, who had refused to share their advanced weapons, now found themselves questioned by their own people. The Ilarians, masters of energy manipulation, began to wonder if they had been too hasty in retreating to their sanctuary worlds. On the Galactic Council space station, Ambassador Jorax of the Vex Collective called an emergency meeting. As representatives from various races gathered, murmurs of disbelief still echoed through the chamber. "We have all seen the footage," Jorax began, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "The humans, whom we long dismissed as primitive and cowardly, have done what none of us dared. They stood against the Devourer and survived." A Zarkonian representative stood up, his metallic skin gleaming under the chamber lights. "Surely it was luck. They cannot hope to defeat such a being." Jorax's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps, but while we cowered in fear, they acted. I propose we reconsider our stance. The humans have proven themselves worthy allies." The debate raged on, but for the first time in galactic history, the idea of working alongside humans was being seriously considered. Back on the front lines, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Nexus 7 station, gazing out at the stars. The weight of command pressed heavily on her shoulders, but her resolve was unshaken. A young ensign approached, tablet in hand. "Admiral, we've detected the Devourer's energy signature. It's on the move again, heading towards the Orion Arm." Chen nodded grimly. "Alert all colonies in the projected path. Begin evacuation procedures immediately." She turned to face the ensign, her eyes hard. "And get me a secure line to Earth. It's time to launch Operation Thunderbolt." As the orders went out, a flurry of activity erupted across human space. Ships of all sizes, from massive freighters to small personal craft, began ferrying civilians away from the danger zone. Meanwhile, military vessels converged on key strategic points, ready to meet the threat head-on. On Earth, President Amelia Okonkwo addressed the United Nations of Humanity. Her voice, broadcast to every human world and colony, rang with determination. "My fellow humans," she began, "the enemy we face is powerful beyond measure. It has consumed entire civilizations, snuffed out stars, and brought terror to the mightiest races in the galaxy." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembly. "But we are humanity. We who crawled out of the mud, who reached for the stars despite all odds. We who have faced extinction 1,000 times and always found a way to survive." Cheers erupted from the assembly, echoed by millions watching the broadcast. "Today, we are not just fighting for ourselves," Okonkwo continued. "We fight for every sentient being in this galaxy. We fight for the very concept of life itself. And make no mistake, we will win." As her words faded, a new sense of purpose settled over humanity. In labs and factories, on ships and stations, humans worked with a fervor that astonished their alien observers. New weapons were forged, strategies were refined, and a steely determination took hold. The Devourer was coming. But this time, humanity would be ready. The galaxy watched and waited, wondering if these upstart beings from Earth could achieve the impossible. Could they, the ones once labeled as cowards, become the saviors of all life? As Operation Thunderbolt began, as ships moved into position and weapons were primed, one thing became clear. Win or lose, humanity would face its destiny on its feet, eyes forward, ready for whatever the cosmos might throw at them. The next battle loomed, and with it, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The vast emptiness of space was shattered by flashes of light and energy as Operation Thunderbolt unfolded. Human ships, now joined by a small contingent of alien allies, engaged the Devourer in a desperate battle near the Orion Arm. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the newly christened HFY Phoenix, named in honor of the weapon that had first wounded the cosmic horror. Her eyes darted between holographic displays, taking in the chaotic scene before her. "Status report," she barked, her voice steady despite the ship shuddering under an energy attack. A young lieutenant, her uniform bearing the patch of Mars colony, responded quickly. "Shields at 60%, Admiral. The Zarkonian ships are providing cover for our flanks. The Illyrian energy manipulators are attempting to disrupt the Devourer's attacks, but with limited success." Chen nodded grimly. The addition of alien allies had bolstered their forces, But the devourer seemed even more powerful than before. It had learned from the previous encounter, its attacks more focused and deadly. Suddenly, a familiar voice crackled over the comm. "This is Dr. Okoro. Admiral, I've made a breakthrough." Chen's heart leaped. Okoro had been working tirelessly to improve the Phoenix weapon since the first battle. "Go ahead, Doctor." "The Devourer's energy signature," Okoro explained, his words tumbling out in excitement. "It's not random. There's a pattern, a rhythm to it. If we can synchronize our attacks to that rhythm, we might be able to create a resonance cascade." For a moment, Chen was silent, her mind racing through the implications. Then her eyes hardened with determination. "Understood, Doctor. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Prepare to recalibrate your weapons on my mark." As Chen relayed Okoro's discovery to the fleet, the battle raged on. Human and alien ships darted and weaved through space, their weapons flaring against the Devourer's dark mass. But for every blow they landed, the cosmic horror struck back twice as hard. On the planet below, in a hastily constructed bunker, Governor Yuki Tanaka of New Horizon Colony watched the battle unfold on a grainy view screen. Around her, colonists huddled in fear, their eyes fixed on the images from space. "Look," Tanaka said, her voice filled with awe. "Look at how they fight for us. Human, Zarkonian, Illyrian, all risking their lives to save our home." A young boy, no more than 10 years old, tugged at Tanaka's sleeve. "Are we going to die?" he asked, his voice trembling. Tanaka knelt down, meeting the boy's eyes. "No," she said firmly. "Humanity has faced worse odds before. We always find a way. Always." Back in space, Admiral Chen's voice rang out across the fleet. "All ships, recalibrate weapons now. Fire on my command." As one, the assembled ships adjusted their aim. The Devourer, sensing the change, lashed out with renewed fury. 2 human frigates disappeared in flashes of light, their crews lost in an instant. Chen gritted her teeth, forcing back the grief. There would be time to mourn later. "Hold steady," she commanded. "Wait for it." The Devourer's energy pulsed, its rhythm becoming clear to those who knew to look for it. Chen's eyes were fixed on a holographic readout, watching as the energy levels rose and fell. "Now," she shouted, "all ships fire." A storm of energy erupted from the fleet. Beams of light, missiles, and exotic alien weapons all converged on the Devourer at once. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a visible shockwave rippled through the cosmic horror. The Devourer writhed, its dark mass contracting and expanding rapidly. Flashes of light erupted from within it, growing more intense by the second. "It's working." Okoro's voice was filled with disbelief and joy. "The resonance cascade is tearing it apart from the inside." As the fleet watched in awe, the Devourer's form began to break apart. Chunks of dark matter drifted away, dissolving into nothingness. The deadly energy tendrils flickered and faded. With a final, silent explosion, the Devourer vanished. Where once there had been a cosmic horror of unimaginable power, now there was only empty space. For a long moment, silence reigned across the battlefield. Then, slowly, cheers began to erupt. On ships and planets, in bunkers and space stations, humans and aliens alike celebrated their impossible victory. Admiral Chen slumped in her chair, exhaustion and relief washing over her. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." As news of the victory spread across the galaxy, the image of humanity began to change. No longer were they seen as the cowards of the cosmos. Now they were hailed as heroes, the saviors of all life. On the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Jorax watched the celebrations with his multiple eyes. "Fascinating," he murmured. "Perhaps we have all misjudged these humans. Their courage, their tenacity. We have much to learn from them." The battle was over, the immediate threat vanquished. But as humanity looked to the stars, they knew their journey was far from over. New challenges, new wonders awaited them. and they would face them as they always had, with determination, ingenuity, and the unbreakable spirit that had seen them through their darkest hour. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity, once dismissed as cowards, had taken their first steps towards a destiny among the stars. The days following the defeat of the Devourer were a whirlwind of activity across the galaxy. On Earth, parades filled the streets of every major city. Fireworks lit up the night sky, their brilliant colors a stark contrast to the darkness that had nearly engulfed all of creation. Admiral Sarah Chen, her uniform crisp despite the bags under her eyes, stood before the United Nations of Humanity. The assembly hall was packed, with delegates from every human world and colony in attendance. Even more watched via holographic projections, their eager faces floating above empty seats. "We have won a great victory," Chen began, her voice carrying across the hushed room. "But the cost was high. Let us never forget those who gave their lives to save not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy." A moment of silence fell over the assembly. Then, Chen continued, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. "Yet in our darkest hour, we found something unexpected. We found allies among the stars, races who chose to stand with us against impossible odds." The main view screen lit up, showing images of Zarkonian and Illyrian ships fighting alongside human vessels. Another image showed Dr. Okoro working side by side with alien scientists, their diverse forms hunched over complex equipment. "We have proven ourselves to the galaxy," Chen declared. "No longer will humanity be dismissed as cowards or primitives. We have earned our place among the stars." The assembly erupted in cheers, the sound echoing through the hall and across the planet. Meanwhile, on the Galactic Council space station, a historic meeting was taking place. For the first time in the Council's long history, a human representative had been invited to attend. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, her dark hair streaked with gray, stood tall as she entered the grand chamber. Alien representatives from dozens of races watched her with a mixture of curiosity and newfound respect. Orcs of the Vex Collective, acting as spokesperson, addressed the assembly. "Fellow sentients, we are gathered here today to acknowledge a great shift in the cosmic order. The human race, long considered too young and volatile for galactic politics, has proven themselves to be valiant defenders of all life." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Jorax continued, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "Therefore, I propose that we extend an official invitation to humanity to join the Galactic Council as full members." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some races voiced their enthusiastic support, while others expressed concerns about humanity's readiness. Through it all, Ambassador Rodriguez stood calmly, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp and attentive. When the debate died down, Jorax turned to Rodriguez. "Ambassador, what say you to this proposal?" Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. "On behalf of humanity, I am honored by this offer. We have much to learn, but also much to contribute. We accept your invitation, with the hope that together we can build a safer and more prosperous galaxy for all." The decision was made. Humanity would take its place on the Galactic Council, their voice now carrying weight in cosmic affairs. As news of this development spread, reactions varied across human space. On Mars, General Maria Vasquez watched the announcement with a mixture of pride and wariness. "We've earned this," she muttered to her staff. "But we must remain vigilant. The galaxy is vast, and there may be other threats out there." In the lunar shipyards, Engineer Raj Patel and his team celebrated in their own way. By working even harder, the council races will be watching us closely, Raj explained to a group of apprentices. "We need to show them that human ingenuity is second to none." Back on Earth, in a small classroom in New Delhi, a young teacher named Aisha Kapoor discussed the recent events with her wide-eyed students. "Miss Kapoor," a little girl asked, her hand shooting up, "does this mean we can visit alien worlds now?" Aisha smiled, her eyes twinkling. "It means that, and so much more, Priya. We've entered a new age of exploration and discovery. The stars are no longer out of reach. As humanity began to adjust to their new status in the galaxy, changes both big and small swept across their civilization. Universities established departments of xenobiology and astropolitics. Artists created works inspired by alien cultures. And everywhere, a sense of excitement and possibility filled the air. Yet, even as they looked to the future, humans didn't forget the lessons of the past. Memorials to those lost in the battle against the Devourer were built on every world. The story of humanity's stand against cosmic horror became legend, passed down from parent to child. And so, a new chapter in human history began. No longer the cowards of the cosmos, but recognized defenders of life itself. The galaxy watched with interest as these unpredictable, tenacious beings took their first steps onto the galactic stage. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But one thing was clear: humanity was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, their courage and determination a beacon of hope in the vast expanse of space. 10 years had passed since humanity's victory over the Devourer. The galaxy had changed in ways few could have imagined, and humanity stood at the center of this transformation. On a clear night on Earth, a young girl named Zura looked up at the stars with wonder. The sky was different now, filled with points of light that moved in strange patterns, alien ships going about their business in Earth's orbit. "Tell me the story again, Grandpa," Zura said, tugging on her grandfather's sleeve. Old Admiral Chen, now retired but still sharp-eyed, smiled down at his granddaughter. "Which one?" "The battle against the Devourer." Zara nodded eagerly, and Chen began the tale she had heard so many times before. But this time, he added something new at the end. "You know, Zora," he said, his voice soft, "the real story isn't about the battle. It's about what came after." In the decade since the Devourer's defeat, humanity had undergone a remarkable transformation. Once seen as primitive and cowardly, they were now respected members of the galactic community. Human cities had become melting pots of species from across the cosmos. In New York, towering Zarkonians walked the streets alongside humans and squat, furry Gliblocks. The air was filled with a cacophony of languages, both human and alien. On Mars, the first interspecies university had been established. The Red Planet had become a center of learning, where the brightest minds from 100 worlds came to share knowledge and ideas. Dr. Okoro, now head of the university's Xenotechnology department, stood before a class of eager students. "The key to our victory," he explained, "wasn't just technology. It was our ability to think outside the box, to find solutions where others saw only problems." His students, a mix of humans and aliens, listened intently. Among them was a young Illyrian, her energy form shimmering with curiosity. In space, human ingenuity had led to breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel. The HSS Explorer, captained by Maria Vasquez, formerly General, now Admiral, was preparing for its maiden voyage to the Andromeda Galaxy. Vasquez stood on the bridge, surveying her crew, a mix of humans and aliens, all working together seamlessly. "We once thought the stars were out of reach," she said, her voice filled with pride. "Now we're about to journey farther than any known species has ever gone." But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Humanity's rapid rise had caused tension with some of the older races. On the Galactic Council, debates often grew heated when human representatives pushed for faster progress and more daring initiatives. Ambassador Rodriguez, her hair now completely silver, faced a group of skeptical alien diplomats. "Yes, we're young," she admitted, "but our freshness, our drive, these are assets, not liabilities. We see possibilities where you see risks." Despite the challenges, humanity's influence continued to grow. Their music, art, and culture spread across the galaxy, embraced by young aliens who saw humans as symbols of boldness and freedom. On a distant world, a group of alien teens gathered in secret to watch banned human movies. They cheered as the hero, against all odds, saved the day. "See," one of them whispered. "That's why I love human stories. They never give up, no matter what." But even as humanity reached for the stars, they didn't forget their roots. On Earth, in the heart of Africa, a new monument was unveiled. It stood on the site where humans had first evolved, a testament to how far they had come. The monument showed a human hand reaching up, intertwined with various alien appendages, tentacles, claws, energy tendrils. At its base, a simple inscription read, "From humble beginnings, we reach for the cosmos. Together." As night fell across the galaxy, billions of beings, human and alien alike, looked up at the stars. But now, instead of fear or indifference, their gazes were filled with hope and wonder. On a small farm in Iowa, a human family hosted their Zarkonian neighbors for dinner. In a space station orbiting Jupiter, a team of scientists from a dozen worlds worked tirelessly on a project to resurrect extinct species. And in the depths of space, the HSS Explorer prepared to make its historic jump to Andromeda. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had been the catalyst. The species once dismissed as cowards had become the driving force of progress and unity. As Zara listened to her grandfather's story, her eyes sparkled with dreams of the future. "Do you think I could be an explorer too, Grandpa?" she asked. Admiral Chen chuckled, ruffling her hair. "Of course you can, little one. The universe is vast, and there's still so much to discover. Who knows what wonders or challenges are waiting out there?" He looked up at the star-filled sky, a hint of his old determination gleaming in his eyes. "But whatever comes, I know humanity will face it the way we always have, with courage, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit." The story of humanity's great stand against the devourer had become legend, but the true legacy of those events was the future it had created, a future where humans and aliens worked side by side, exploring the cosmos and facing its challenges together. The galaxy would never be the same. And it was all because, when the moment came, the cowardly humans had stepped up.